Right. I think it's enough. I mean, many people talk about theory and implementation, practice and theory, and the interconnectedness of theory to practice or practice to theory. Which one is more important? Both are important, I believe. So whether you are based on theories or you study theories more and you didn't practice translation, you need to do practice translation. And if you are practicing translation, you do need to know about the theories because they do help in many ways your practice. So both of them are linked together. I've been talking about House's model to an extent. I did not explain it as I should because it's quite a long process. You need to really read it from the book itself that's published in 1977, or which was revised in 1997. The model has been revised then, and it was refined again in 2015. Now, here, when you are applying the model, I'm going to show you how I applied it to a film called Meet the Robinsons. Meet the Robinsons, which is in 2007 film. It's a feature film, it's a cartoon, it's about two characters, Wilbur and you have also Lewis, and one of them is an orphan and he's adopted by the Robinsons family. That's the film. I looked at the subtitles of the film and I've noticed applying House's TQA model, I've come up with some analysis which I would like to show you in the form of table, based mainly on House's model. Let me just show you the actual table. You can see that in this table I have got some matches or mismatches because I compared the ST to the TT in terms of textual profile of the ST and textual profile of the TT. Of course, you need to look into that. Now, in terms of procedure that I found that the subtitler has done is with regards to the gender in this case. For example, the addressee is female, تخلصي منه. The verb in the feminine form, تخلصي منه, get rid of him. So get rid of him, of course, in the English, it does not show that kind of that the feminine or the female is actually or being addressed. So the addressee is a female. Here, the approach used, according to House, it's the overt translation because there's no, it was more or less dependent on the denotative meaning of the text. That's why it is related to that. Before I carry on, maybe I should really show you the difference between the covert and overt distinction between the two, and according to House. Let's have a look. Well, according to House, the difference is clear here. Let me just make it a bit smaller so you can see the whole thing here. House differentiating page 65 to 66 between overt translation and covert. The basic distinction is as follows. This is what House is saying. In an overt translation, the receptors of the translation are quite overtly not being addressed. In other words, you're not addressing them in particular. Well, this is what she is explaining it as. An overt translation is thus one which is overtly a translation, not a second original. In other words, you're not a co-author. Source texts that call for an overt translation have an established worth in the source language community. They're either historical source texts such as those tied to a specific situation or occasion in which a precisely specified source language audience is or was being addressed, or they may be timeless source texts. Now, of course, I mean, this is what an overt translation and when you can use it according to House. The covert one, I'm not going to actually go and analyze this because it's going to because I'm talking about applying the model for the quality assessment to see the adequacy in translation. A covert translation is a translation which enjoys the status of an original source text in the target culture. In other words, the target culture will see it as an original text. The translation is covert because it's not marked pragmatically as a translation text of a source text, but may conceivably have been created in its own right. In other words, it appears as if it's not translated at all. This is what a covert translation is, according to House. A covert translation is thus a translation whose source is not specifically addressed to a particular source culture audience. A source text and its covert translation are pragmatically of equal concern for source and target language addresses. Okay, and that is what they have. I've just sort of given you an idea of what they are, covert and overt, because I want to make sure that you understand that. Now, let's look at these examples. So the first example, I've showed you what is he still doing here. Get rid of him. And of course, the word get rid of him, it is related to gender, and that is to do with participation between, this is a dialogue and not a monologue. So that's the participation going on, and it's an overt translation as I can see it. Second one is, we can see the word in the second one about don't move. Wait, don't move. Here, of course, it's don't move. And here it's an imperative, ordering somebody to don't get rid of him. And here it's all imperative as well, which is don't move. But here, don't move is addressing a male, whereas that one is addressing a female. So this is a gender-related issue, and the addressee in don't move is male. And there's also an element about the word this, whether it's masculine or feminine, and it is referring to an inanimate object. And also there's the element of repetition as well. Wait, and where it's translated as just wait. Okay, we're moving on to another aspect or another example. Here we have, here for example, and now all that's left is to return to en vertical. Of course, don't worry about these numbers. I'll just tell you what these numbers are actually. 0973, which is the number, subtitle number. And this is the in queue where the subtitle appears, which is 01, which is at hour 1, 07, the minutes, 07 seconds, and these are the frames. This is the in queue where it appears, and this is the out queue where it disappears, which is at not 07 seconds, but at 10 seconds. And this is the frames. And then this is 46 characters, meaning that there are 49 characters in this line of subtitle. And this is the speed, character per second, and this is word per minute, speed-wise. You can also compare, if you want, if you are to compare the textual profile of the ST and the TT, you have to look at the reading speed as well, because the reading speed is 16 characters per second, and here 14 characters per second. And here word per minute is 99. Here word per minute is 159. So here's 199, and here 159. In other words, this is quicker to read than this one. So in terms of speed, reading speed, that this subtitler has achieved the reading speed that it's supposed to do. But unlike the English, in the Arabic there's the 42 here, which because sometimes you might put the subtitle in 2 lines. So it will say to you the 2 lines, how many characters in each line, as in the case here. Because the first line has got 14 characters, the second line has got 7 characters. So now, going back to the model, we can see there's a lexical shift where, for example, to return to, it's translated as the return to. So here is a little bit of shift, but also it's an overt translation because it's addressing a certain person in the source text, and that is no functional equivalence is used because it's not idiomatic. Another lexical item issue is in the next one. You see the word yatim, which is a repetition, and this repetition, which is a lexical means, as you remember, because one of the elements is lexical means. You've got lexical means, you've got syntactical means or syntactic means, and you've got textual means. And here you have a repetition of the word orphan twice in English and Arabic, which means that they are matching well together. So this is adequate. So adequacy is achieved in translation. But of course, if you look at the speed here, it's 12 characters per second, whereas he's 9. Here it's matching word per minute, so it's quite good. When we move to this next one, register related, there's a register change here. In this, at the top, there's a register change, as we've seen, where if you look at the bottom here, we're matching them. Here we have an element that the phrasal verb translated into a formal verb. In other words, the word follow through, it says, what you didn't even follow through on our last deal. Follow through on our last deal. Follow through is the phrasal verb, and it's translated as you did not commit to our previous agreement even. So this is phrasal verb into formal verb. Again, this is related to register. The next one is an issue of the pronoun it, and it's very problematic really, because here, till you get it right, which is translated as till you behave properly. So you see the word it is here, of course, get it right is translated to behave properly. And here we have the pronoun of it, which is problematic in the English and not so in the Arabic. Of course, this is a mismatch in between the two. Another one here is relating to, for example, again, it's the word it. Now it's up to you. And I think here we need to shift the to, because the English has to be in the other side. So I just put it in here, and the Arabic needs to be on the other side. So it's wrong organization. So I'm just putting it back in here. So you see, but now it is up to you, which is 42 characters. Whereas in the Arabic, it's 30 characters. And what I mean here by characters, it's the number of letters plus the spaces plus the full stops. You can see the reading speed here, character per second, is only 15, whereas here is 18. So here it's longer to read. The reading speed is higher. But it's because of the problem of the word it, because it's up to you. What is the it is up to you. And here it's the matter that's up to you, or matter goes back to you. Next one is register related, where the spoken English for the word turn it on is what a stupid way to turn it on. And then in the Arabic, it's operated. What a stupid way to operate it. So it's the word turn it on, phrasal verb, spoken into formal style in Arabic. Here there's a mismatch between the two. Of course, this mismatch is really, though it's related to spoken and written, but it's still, I mean, it's adequate. I mean, even though there is a mismatch, but that mismatch is not in any way a weakness in the target text, in the translation at all, none at all. But that's because in Arabic we don't have phrasal verbs the way they are in English. So that's why it is interesting to maybe draw between systemic difference between the two languages. Move to the next one here, figure out what. This is another subtitle number 0911, where in 0911 you still haven't figured it out. Figured out what? So you see, you did not, here you are using the word discover the matter. You did not discover the matter, which is also relating to phrasal verb translated into non-phrasal verb or formal verb. Again, in the next one, the same, and so on. Now I'm just going to move on because, I mean, there are so many of them. Some of them are to do with a functional equivalence. For example, here the word one. How, it says here, yeah, Frankie, how about that one with the bullfrog? And it's translated, how about that joke about the bullfrog, the American bullfrog, the American frog. So that's how it's translated. But it's the word that one, which means the joke. You see, that is, you wouldn't know, you have to go for the functional equivalence and you have to understand it through its context in order to know what is meant by the word one, because the word one can mean many things. Can mean a person. Here, I just look at this. All right, you bozos, meaning all right, you idiots. But you see, the word bozo is spoken, conversational, and the word idiots, it's not. It's very formal. So it is a co-reference here because they do refer to them again and again in the film. Because again, it says here, for example, in subtitle that you have here, which is subtitle 0741, where he says, you bunch of goons, which is again, you idiots, which is a co-reference again, related to cohesion, of course, which is very, very important here. But of course, it's very difficult to know what goons is, so it might be a covert translation used here. Here again, look at this here. It said, get up. This is subtitle 0803, which is 803, where it says, get up, you pansy. Afiq ayyuha al-jaban, means get up, you coward. See, this is another element which is very hard to spot. Whiz kid, he says, genius boy. So this is another related to register. And of course, there's the other thing is about graduates from college. Well, in Arabic, you don't say graduate from, you say graduate in. So this is, you should not violate the TL system in the target language system. If you remember what Hauser says about not violating or not breaching the target language system in your translation. Of course, that's why he says in the university and not from the university, graduates from. Moving on to another one here is my ride isn't My ride isn't here yet, so fire it up. So this is another issue here. My ride, it means my car. So you see, it's near synonym, and it's very difficult to actually know what it meant, because the word my ride, you need to understand it from context, as it is interconnectedness of context and text, as House's model is saying. Also the word to fire it up, and he's talking about trying to start it, in other words, trying to operate it. There are so many of them, and I'm just going to move on. I mean, like, for example, here, Cornelius, I get that a lot. I get that a lot is translated as I hear that a lot. That's functional equivalence. That's that's functional equivalence. That's what House is saying in her model. So you see, I get that a lot, and here I hear that a lot. So here, instead of the word get, which is a functional, I think, equivalence here. Here there's a bit of an addition here, because he says, you don't like this, you don't like a Lewis. In other words, you don't like to use the name Lewis. Here, I can't see the name Lewis matches you or fits you well. Here, I think it is, the word name is added to the word Lewis, and you don't like a Lewis, you don't look, your name does not fit your looks, basically. So here is a cultural expression, a Lewis, and you see it was translated as. So this is to also confirm the idea that cultural expressions in both languages, I mean, that's why when Hauser says that it is a linguistic act as well as a communication act between cultures or across cultures, and this is one of the examples for that one. There's also the interpersonal element here, which I've noticed quite a few times in this film, where he says my mum, and he's spelling mum in American or US spelling. In the British spelling, it will be U, not O. Here, the word mum is used ummi, which is my mother. I mean, ummi or mama. I mean, maybe mama, لرؤية ماما. Or رؤية مامتي, مثل ما بيقولوا المصريين. To see my mummy. So you see here a little bit of change between informal mum and the formal ummi, al-um. Sometimes, I mean, I suppose maybe the word walida is more formal even than but still is formal. If you say mamti, maybe it's better, but then mamti is not nice to say because it's not written Arabic, because he's talking about written Arabic. Here again, the word Wilbur's dad. So if I am Wilbur's dad, and then you say the word dad and Abba, I think Baba or Baba مثل ما قال. Sometimes, I mean, they use it in a very joking way in the comedies, Baba Huwa, Baba Hai, and so on. This is another interesting element here. But of course, you can't use it in Arabic, conversational Egyptian dialect. You cannot use that. You can't use any dialects, basically, in Arabic. You have to use the formal written form to be heard. You know, remember when we were talking about medium, and participation according to House, and social attitude, as well as social role relationship, if you remember. All of these are applied here. I think you have to be aware that this kind of application that I'm using here is useful to a great extent. I mean, here again, the word dad again, being used to register is an issue. Here it's a problem of structure. Why is a problem of structure? Because, oh no boy, big boy. And of course, it's translated as he is huge without the word boy. So there's an element of إنه ضخم, which is an actual full sentence, whereas here in the original it's a big boy, which is just a phrase. So there is a structural shift here, and syntactic means, as Hauser would call it, being used. Restructuring here, I would recommend this to everybody, because always they say العائلة الغلط أو العائلة الخطأ بترجموها, which is wrong, completely wrong to say that. Though I'm using the word wrong as well here. But you see, in Arabic you say, you have wronged. لقد أخطأت في العبث مع العائلة. You are wrong to mess about with the family. This is how you are wrong to have messed with this family or with the family. You see how the structure needs to be rechanged in order not to violate, as House is saying, not to violate the target language system. And here the word العائلة الخطأ is not a good translation at all if you do the denotative meaning of the source text, the wrong family. I'm going to stop here. I'll do another session because it's quite a long session, so that you won't get bored. I would just go and say to you that I hope by looking at these examples that I have come from Meet the Robinsons, you can see that there is a lot of mismatches. But however, I have to say this, that it is a textual profile, not actually literal semantic meaning that you look at, but you look at the textual profile of the source text and the textual profile of the target text, and compare the two in order to reach these kind of results or these kinds of findings that I am talking about. I will have another session, or maybe two sessions, regarding how to apply or implement House's TQA on the subtitling of Meet the Robinsons. And by the way, the model by House has not been applied, maybe my application or implementation of the model, one of the first in subtitling, and that is in subtitling in particular in Arabic. I don't know whether any other researcher or scholar has actually done this, comparing or applying or implementing the House's model on subtitling. Thank you.